Hey guys, how's it going? Preparing in here. The Witchwood expansion, it's gonna release on the 12th, we actually learned the other day. And that's pretty soon. That's about a week from now. I will give you guys an update on the all day long stream that I'll be doing on that day. And I hope you guys join me for the epic pack opening. But until then, we are going to be doing a lot of card reviewing because there's quite a lot of cards left to be revealed. And today I have quite a few for you guys, another batch. And while I don't think it's individually quite as interesting, we're seeing a lot more of the filler cards come out right now. But so far, they're pretty interesting for filler cards. So let's have a look here. So first we had Spectral Cutlass. Now this card I think makes the least sense out of the cards that we've seen so far from the Witchwood expansion because, well, it just doesn't do anything different than the Rogue Legendary Weapon. So the idea is you play cards from other classes to mass up durability on this thing, and it has lifesteal so you can keep on going throughout the game. That makes sense, right? More or less. The issue is that this weapon gets killed. So the more weapon investments you have in a deck surrounding this card, the more savagely wrecked you will become when your opponent has weapon removal. This is not true if you're playing the legendary weapon, because that one comes back again and again and again. That's kind of the point of that weapon, actually. This one, if you run it without support, it's bad. If you run it with support and it ends up being a good deck, it'll get hard countered by weapon removal. I think 2 damage, even though it has lifesteal, is not really good enough to sustain you in a game where you're playing constant low tempo cards in the constructed format. So I think you're going to have to use weapon buffs if you're playing this card. And my reasoning is, if you're playing weapon buffs and you're going crazy all in to invest into a weapon deck, why not just play the legendary one? There's some case to be made for this card because it's cycling out 1 year later than the legendary weapon, because that's kind of the difference. It's kind of how standard works. So maybe like a year from now, this card will be played, but until then, probably not. And we had Bog Shaper. Bog Shaper is an epic quality shaman card. I don't know why it's an epic shaman card. Probably could be like a common, just the same. It's a 7 mana cost, 4/8, so the stats are underwhelming. They're not horrible. Number-wise, they're low, but distribution-wise, they're great. So stats are okay. The ability is when you play a spell, you draw a minion from your deck, and it's an elemental, so that's something, I guess. The idea, I think, behind this card is you're playing a few minions, probably ones that draw you cards, or ones with spell damage, possibly exactly Malagos, or some kind of combo. And this will let you have some consistency to that. Now, I can't imagine what that would be, but I can imagine this card working out just because of that. Playing like just a few cheap spells and, just whatever. Also, another aspect of this card is because there's a lot of cards in the upcoming expansion that generate random shaman spells. Well, there are some really bad random shaman spells. And some of those, actually most of those, cost a very small amount of mana. So the way that I think about this card working out is if you're lacking card draw in a type of deck that's running a lot of shaman spells, a lot of generated spells, maybe not the case, but it could be the case, we don't know. You get a bunch of these random spells, and then in your hand you have like 3 Totemic Might, some Totemic, I don't know what it is, the one that buffs a minion, and then maybe you have Ancestral Healing. You just have all these junk spells that some of them cost 0 even. So you put one of these in your deck and you basically trade those crappy cards for more minions that would then generate more spells through the new Shaman Death Knight card. Or hero card, let's say, right? That makes sense. It makes sense. It doesn't seem very good, but it makes sense. This card looks hopeless when you first look at it, but some aspects kind of work together with what Shaman is possibly going to become. Blood Witch. Blood Witch is kind of an interesting one. You're going to see right after this card, it was revealed as a set with 2 other Warlock cards. Maybe makes a bit more sense. So it's got a negative ability. At start of your turn, you deal 1 damage to your hero. And the idea is that taking damage is the new Warlock identity. So even though this looks negative, it could be positive. Now, I have my doubts on that. This is a premium statted 4-drop, but playing just stats these days often isn't quite good enough. So I'm not optimistic about this card, but who knows? Maybe we'll see a lot more Warlock cards with triggers based on taking damage on your own turn. The next one here, Deathweb Spider, is one of those cards. It's a 5 mana 4/6, so the stats are fair, not great, but they're fair. And you get lifesteal if you took damage. Now, as a standalone card, this doesn't look very good, because, 5 mana 4/6 lifesteal, that's just not very good. But the way I have to think about it is, if there are more cards that require you to take damage to activate extremely powerful abilities, you're just going to end up taking a lot of damage, so you're going to need healing, and the cards that we've seen themed around this so far are decent tempo cards, and healing is usually very bad tempo. So I think the idea behind this card is to recuperate the health that you lose from activating the synergy based on taking damage on your own turn. Even though it looks really bad, the deck might require a card that's kind of like this one. So, who knows? Who knows? It could be good. Another one of these cards, this is the last one of the set of 3 that was revealed at once, the Duskbat. This is the most powerful one, I think. The effect is very strong. We're talking about 3 mana 4/6 worth of total stats across 3 bodies. Wow, that's a lot. That's a really good card. If you can play this alongside a Flame Imp or a Librarian with 4 mana, that's absolutely crazy, right? But I don't know if you can do that too consistently. If you have to wait until like turn 5, 6, 7, 8 to take damage in order to play a Duskbat, well, that's horrible then. It's garbage, right? So this card is as good as its consistency. And its consistency with the given set of cards that we know of right now is questionable. So we'll see. Dire Frenzy is a new common hunter card. This card looks pretty interesting. So you give a beast, not a minion, a beast, +3/+3, and you shuffle 3 copies into your deck with this same buff. So that seems pretty good. It costs 4 mana though, so I don't know. I think the idea behind this card is you want to use it either on minions with charge, or you want to use it in a deck that's kind of built around having a lot of low-cost minions with card draw or with effects, or maybe the card draw specifically for 1-drops. So, this card, if you think about this on, a boar, 1 mana 1/1 charge, you put Dire Frenzy on it, you have a 5 mana 4/4 charge across 2 cards. It's not great, but then in your deck you'll have 3 more 1 mana 4/4 charge minions. That's really good. If you can have some kind of accelerated draw mechanic for those cards, that's really good, right? You can also just naturally play Animal Companion. If you get a Huffer, well, that's pretty strong. If you can land this on a Huffer, you're going to have 3 mana 7/5 charging beasts in your deck as top deck potential. That's really good, right? So the height of this card is really strong. But overall, I'm getting kind of a sense of a clumsy deck. So we'll have to see how well that can be refined. But power level wise, it's pretty good. Then we have a bunch of neutral minions with kind of like flip effects. We have the Swift Messenger to start. It's a 4 mana 2/6 rush, and each turn this is in your hand, you swap its attack and health. Remember, this is a start of turn effect. So if you were in top deck mode and you draw this card, it is a 4 mana 2/6. If this is in your opening hand on turn 2, if this is in your opening hand on turn 1, it'll become a 6/2. On turn 2, a 2/6. On turn 3, a 6/2. And on turn 4, it'll be a 2/6 again. So if you keep this in your opening hand, it'll be a 2/6 rush on turn 4, which is not great. Overall, the card looks good, but the way it's probably going to be played is a little clumsy. And I think this clumsiness is best highlighted in the next card that's very similar. It's an 8 mana 3/8. So a lot more costly, but it's got Divine Shield. And that's pretty good, right? So a lot of people look at this card and they're like, yeah, that's probably too much mana to see play and constructed, but it's probably going to be a good arena card because imagine your opponent has an 8/8 minion, and then you play this as an 8 mana 8/3 Divine Shield Rush and you kill it for free, then you have an 8/3 on the board. And I get you on that, but consistency-wise, it's pretty weak because, people play big minions in arena, but they don't play big minions that often. So what if they play a big minion and then on that turn, this is a 3/8 and not an 8/3. And then it's horrible. And then let's say you can kill that big minion with some other means, but let's say he just doesn't have another really big minion, or let's say he doesn't have another big minion when this is conveniently an 8/3 Divine Shield Rush. So you can see the clumsiness. This card is very clumsy. It's very good, but it's very clumsy. And cards like these often fall because of their inconsistencies. And I think this is going to be in that same category. Very high power level card, but I don't think it's going to be consistent enough to really constantly reach that level of power. And the third one kind of needs flippy flips. We have Spell Shifter. This is more of like a budget spell damage 2-drop. I don't think it's as good as Blood Mage Thalnos, but it's better than all the other spell damage early game options. So it's probably a pretty good arena card. It's probably a pretty good budget card, maybe for some new players to acquire. Not bad, right? Would you ever use this in alongside with Blood Mage Thalnos? I don't know. You still have the 2-mana 1/1 Divine Shield spell damage option. This is debatably worse than that. It's tough to say. I think this card will not see much play, but it's not terrible. There's just other cards that do what this does about as well or better. So, meh. And we have a legendary neutral Dollmaster Dorian, 5-mana 2/6, stat-wise a bit weak, but when you draw a card, you summon a 1/1, or when you draw a minion, you summon a 1/1 copy of it. So this is kind of like the Barnes effect. Barnes in some ways is back, but in not so many ways, because this card is a lot better if you have a minion-packed deck. And if you have a minion-packed deck, probably not all of the minions you can put in your deck are going to synergize very well with this. So yeah, you'll probably have a lot of death rattles if you're playing this, but it can be a bit tough, I would say. It's certainly not quite as good as Barnes, but it's pretty good. It has the advantage that while it's worse than Barnes when you play it, if you are winning the board in that state, it's pretty tough to kill this because it has 6 health as a 5-drop. That's quite a lot of health for a 5-drop. So if your opponent's not able to kill this and you have a lot of card draw mechanics, this can get really out of control very quickly. And, Barnes doesn't do that. So, yeah, I can see this being a thing, but it's going to be a totally new thing. So whether that's going to compete in the meta, that's an entirely different story. But I like it. It's a nice card. We have Voodoo Doll, 3-mana 1/1 Battlecry, choose a minion, death rattle, destroy the chosen minion. Is that good? No. No, it's not good. The only thing I can think of is it's a pretty strong Defile combo activator, but so are like a shitload of cards. So whatever. I don't know why this card's epic. It doesn't look very good. I think about in an arena scenario, would I ever choose to play this over a Basilisk? Nah. No, I don't think so. I think this card's pretty bad. All right, Druid Legendary, Splintergraft, 8-mana 8/8, Battlecry, choose a friendly minion, add a 10/10 copy to your hand that costs 10. That's pretty good. There's a lot of cards that actually synergize very well off of this. We're looking at Giants. There's I think it's called the Arcane Tyrant. If you play a spell that costs 5 or more, it costs 0 for the turn. So you can get a 0-mana 10/10 on the following turn. That's pretty strong. So an 8-mana 8/8 that doesn't really affect the board in any way. It's very weak, so you'll have to be able to push out that minion really fast to come back from your crappy full turn play of this card. So there's not going to be that many candidates that will work very well, but there are going to be a few. So this card looks pretty bad, but it could actually be deck defining. It could really do that. The power level peak is quite high for this card, even though it looks a bit too clumsy because it has too high of a cost. Mage Legendary, we have Toki the Time Tinker, 6-mana 5/5, Battlecry, add a legendary minion from the past to your hand. What does the past mean? The past means from the wild format. So when this card is in wild, it's going to be hopeless. But until then, it's pretty decent, I would say. It's a 6-mana 5/5, draw a pretty okay card. So it's kind of like a crappy Azure Drake. Now the card on average is pretty okay, but sometimes it's going to be absolutely insane, and your opponent can't play around some of these, like Loatheb. That would be insane. Getting something like Kil'Thuzad is going to instantly win you the game. So it seems pretty good. I can see this seeing play in some kind of like, I don't know, super control mage that uses a few RNG elements to develop some kind of win condition. I don't know. I think the card is overall a bit too weak to see competitive play, but the effect is really cool and really fun. And those two things matching up, I think, is quite wonderful. If you have a card that has extreme levels of RNG that can high roll the crap out of your opponent, but on average it's not a very good card, people who want to experience the heavy RNG high roll experience of Hearthstone can do that while suffering in their win rate. That's totally fine. I like that a lot. So thank you, Blizzard. I hope this card won't be competitive. I don't think it will. Then we have Mistwraith. 4 mana, 3/5. Whenever you play an Echo card, gain +1/+1. So if you have very small Echo cards, this can get really big very quickly. But I think the smallest Echo card we have seen is a 2 mana card. So I see that as being very good. But is that constructed good? I don't know. A lot of the Echo stuff has been questionable, but it's possible we're all underestimating it, and it's possible Echo is just an extremely strong mechanic. And if that's the case, Mistwraith could certainly see some play, but I have my doubts. I think this card is too weak to see play. I think it costs too much mana. In fact, that you'd rarely want to play this and push Echo on the same turn. Echo, I think, is best used for spamming the entirety of your turn. So if you have like 8 mana and you have a 2-cost Echo thing, I think more than likely you'd rather play 4 times that Echo card than Mistwraith and 2 times that Echo card. If you're playing an Echo deck and you're not playing these cards many times with Echo, what's the point of that? So we know that the power level of most of these Echo cards is pretty low. The advantage is you can play it a lot of times. If you have to play Mistwraith and then not play Echo cards, hope it stays alive, and then play a lot of Echo cards, that seems pretty optimistic to me. I don't think this card's very good, but who knows? Maybe we're underestimating Echo. I'm not going to write it off entirely myself. We have a Paladin weapon, Silver Sword, 8 mana, 3/4. After your hero attacks, give your minions +1/+1. So pretty interesting card there. 8 mana cost is certainly very steep. But when you look at cards like Vine Cleaver from the past, which are 7 mana for 3 weapons that spawn 1/1s, those cards are just absolutely ridiculous in Arena. They require some synergy. You need to play Vine Cleaver in kind of like a dude Paladin shell if you're playing Constructed. And even then, it kind of costs too much mana. And this costing more mana, I think, makes it a little bit less likely to see play in Constructed format. But it's very good for Swarm decks. I just feel if you're playing Swarm decks, you want to be playing Divine Favor. If you're playing Divine Favor, you want as few clunky high mana cards as possible, and this is a clunky high mana card. So I can see basically every constructed Swarm deck cutting this, but possibly not, just because it's a high power level card. Just so you guys can see the power level involved in this card. So Rogue has Assassin's Blade, which is basically this card without the effect that costs 5 mana. Getting that effect on there is a really big deal. If you have like 3 or 4 minions, that's like playing a king's worth of stats per attack. So that's so good, right? Just the downside is very high mana cost, and Swarm decks do not do well with very high mana cost cards. But in Arena, this is going to be pretty nuts. We have Pickpocket. More of Echo cards, more of Rogue Echo cards that cost 2. The effect is add a random card to your hand from your opponent's class. So if you want to think about it, this is kind of like a 2 mana cycle, which is a little bit weak. You can think of this as 4 mana, draw an extra card, which is really weak. 6 mana, draw 2 extra cards, which is really weak. 8 mana, draw 3 extra cards, which is really weak. So all of these are really weak. Yeah, I don't know. If you can somehow get some kind of spell discount going on, maybe, but it just seems too weak for 2. 1 mana makes this card broken. 2 mana makes it too weak. We're kind of stuck in that spot. I'm not optimistic about it, but it's a cool card. Another Paladin one, Bellringer Sentry, 4 mana, 3/4, Battlecry and Death Rattle, puts a secret from your deck into the battlefield. So not quite Mysterious Challenger, which brought like 5 secrets from your deck into the battlefield, but not too bad. I think stat-wise, it is a little bit clumsy and competes with a lot of cards in the deck. Right now, the reason why Paladin is so strong is the 1-drop, 2-drops, 3-drop weapons, and Call to Arms. This is a little bit disruptive to that. Secrets are often not worth playing by themselves in the early game. And on turn 4, you'd rather play Call to Worms than this card, and you'd have to be playing this card and Secrets in your deck. So again, there's just a lot of clumsiness, but the efficiency of removing low-cost cards from your deck in the mid-game and guaranteeing really good top decks certainly should not be underestimated. So I think this card is low power level, but again, I wouldn't write it off. That aspect of pulling low-cost cards from your deck is really strong and could be pretty good. I don't know. The Glass Knight, Paladin Legendary. 4 mana, 4/3 Divine Shield. When you restore health, gain Divine Shield. This card's going to be super annoying to deal with. If you're playing kind of like a mid-range Paladin deck, I think you're going to be able to sustain this effect a lot. And I think that's going to make the card really good. It's just mid-range Paladin is not necessarily going to be that strong. But I think this is going to be a defining card of that deck type. So I like it. I think if I am bothered to, I'm going to try to make that deck. I like playing mid-range Paladin. It doesn't feel too degenerate. I'm not really playing aggro Paladin, but I have a lot of the similar win conditions. I can play a lot of hipster cards, and this is going to be at the top of that hipster card list. I like it a lot. Then lastly, we have Worgen Abomination. It's a 7 mana 6/6. At the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to all other damaged minions. So the idea of this card is it's played either in kind of like a Paladin or Shaman deck where you can do granular damage to things. Even doing this with like, I know it's not going to be in Standard anymore, but for example, using this with like a Maelstrom Portal essentially upgrades it quite a bit, right? Other damaged minions is really strong. You having the control of this effect, because it's at the end of your turn, makes this effect really strong. Now, we would have to be seeing a meta where there's a lot of board combat with minions that have over 2 or 3 health. That could happen. This card could be pretty good, but I feel it's more or less tailored to the arena environment, where it is going to be insanely powerful. And honestly, a lot of fun. Look forward to playing with a lot of these. I think we still have about half the set left, and I think some days from now we will actually see the remaining half a set. So get ready for another gigantic card review from El Crippo here. But for now, hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys in the next. Well, hi there. Thank you for watching yet another Cripperino video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, and if you do want to see more, and if you haven't already subscribed, why not subscribe? It's there. It's free. You get to see more of me. But these days, actually, the subscribe button doesn't necessarily do what it did in the past. You might not get notifications for all the videos, especially since we do multiple uploads a day. So if you have already subscribed and you must see every single Cripperino video, well, you can hit the notification thing, hit that bell sign, and you absolutely will get notified when the next video comes out. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.